All up in your face. All up in your face. All up in your face.
Since I'm back again, you want another lesson? Yo, Feroz, just mention who they be messing with the acid. Worry up in the flesh, so don't test me. Watch from the side, I saw homies that act friendly. Cause envy will have you in prison, fight of crumbs. Will have you hating the person you should be learning from. Cause ego is a serious thing, if you can check it. Hate it cause I'm doing my thing, but I can't help it. What you trying to do? Homeboy, I'm trying to really help you. Over tight ass beats, cause that's the only way you're listening to me. Listen to see if the ground breaks underneath my feet. But I'ma stay strong and confident. You could understand the medicine that my mom.
All right, good morning, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Raw Dawgin. I'm SeanWins. I'm your host here. And today we got a special guest, Mr. Corona, aka Aztec Speech. What's up, man?
What's up, man?
Hey, nice to see you.
It's good to see you too, man.
Hey, yeah. Hey, good morning. But it's still morning, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's like 11. It's like about to be 12.
Yeah.
On a Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Sunday, we're on our little brunch vibes here. That's the
Yeah,
reason why I offered mimosas for today. So
For real, we're on our white girl vibes right now.
white girl vibes. All right. So, as a matter of fact, look, you already being the homie. Honestly, what do you want me to call you, man? Because sometimes when I talk to you to other people, I always tell like, yo, I have a friend named called Aztec Speech.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'm just like, sometimes I forget what to call you, like Alfredo or
Aztec. I mean, to be honest, I mean I feel like almost all my life has been like that.
yeah,
With my family and like close friends calling me Junior because
Yeah.
I'm the same name as my dad.
yeah,
And then in school they'll call me Alfredo.
yeah.
And so now that I'm in like this artist world, like now it's like Aztec Speech.
All
So
right.
I mean, you can just call me Aztec.
All right. I was gonna say for this interview, I'm definitely calling you Aztec.
Yeah.
All right. So Aztec, tell us a little bit about yourself and like what you do.
So first and foremost, I'm a father. I'm a fiance. I'm a stepdad, and I am also a artist, performing artist. I'm an MC, and I was born in Atlanta, raised out here in Gwinnett.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I'm just, I've learned a lot. I've always been into music
Yeah.
since I was a kid, either like through my dad, just always flipping through like different radio stations, or like listening to my brother blast 50 Cent or
Yeah.
the newest Eminem album at the time, like in the early 2000s.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I mean, but
So
yeah,
hip hop has always been there.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. So, but you okay? So your name's Aztec Speech, right?
Mhm.
So you are an MC and you are a hip hop artist. You grew up with hip hop. So, but did you also grow up with like Latino music?
Yeah, no, definitely. That was always in the background. So it's always like if you go to like a house party with my parents when I was growing up,
Right.
or when I was like 2, they would play the merengues.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and throughout time when I was a teenager being in quinceañeras, like dancing bachata, getting
Yeah.
merengue,
Right.
cumbias, so definitely cumbias, and duranguenses, so like like a lot of different
Right.
like just like brown, I guess like art or
Yeah.
brown like music.
Right.
I always saw it more as like I saw it more as like, oh, that's my parents' music, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out of my way to listen to it,
Right.
but if it's playing, I'm definitely gonna listen.
Yeah.
But it's like, and it's almost, I don't want my son to feel like hip hop is like background music.
Mhm.
So I'm almost trying to find a way, once he's like actually older and like cognizant, but to see how I'm gonna distribute like the
Right.
music. Okay, like is he gonna listen to this today? Where's he
Right.
to make sure that he's also diverse and like
understand.
this type of influences too.
Right.
You know.
And so I was actually going to ask you, so your style of music, from everything that I've listened to, especially your first mixtape, or was it Return of the Chicano MC?
Yeah.
So how important is it to you to like?
That's cool that you brought that up.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's how I met you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how important is it to you to make sure that to incorporate like Latino music with like hip hop?
I think, I mean, it's really important, bro, especially because I started seeing my identity within hip hop and within like Chicano music. Growing up in middle school, Chicano music was definitely more popular in California and more in the
Right.
West Coast. But I had friends that I had that live that lived closer to Atlanta because I would go to church there.
Right.
So their like older brothers or like their friends would listen to like Little Rob and Mr. Capone, Mr. Criminal, that type of stuff. And like if you know,
Mr.
you know,
Criminal,
right?
Yeah. It's so funny. I've actually never heard anyone that doesn't listen. I actually haven't heard anyone from here to actually bring up Mr. Criminal.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like for me, even though that's not, let's just say my my ethnicity or like that, you would think I grew up listening to, which I didn't grow up listening to, but just YouTube and the internet being a thing, you can like listen and stream stuff from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like people who listen to like Chicano artists like Mr. Criminal only like are only in the West Coast. So it's nice to hear that someone like yourself.
Yeah, and he has his own podcast too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like I need to watch that then.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I think my favorite song from him, he made a song called Elevate with Wiz Khalifa. You heard that?
Oh, actually, I haven't.
Yeah. So it was a collab I was not expecting. I think that's actually how I found him because I was listening to Wiz for like a good period.
Yeah.
And he ended up having like a feature with him, which I thought was super dope. Cool. But yeah. All right,
But,
so this actually should have been the first question. I'm sorry to cut you off a little bit.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So your name is Aztec Speech.
Yeah.
So what is the meaning of Aztec Speech?
So for me, the way I found out or how I got that name, and I first was calling myself Madman J, which is like cringy as hell now.
Madman J.
But that's because I found out that Childish Gambino got his name through a Wu-Tang name generator.
Really?
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, let me do that too. And then I think it was like Lucky Madman or something. I'm like, okay, let me just call myself Madman J for Junior. Right? A lot of people knew me like that. And so now thinking back, I'm like, it's cringy as hell, right? But I think at the time when I started getting more into making music, I was listening to this this group from Atlanta from the early 90s called Arrested Development. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know, like Tennessee, like that's like their breakout song. But they even won like Best New Artist, like getting a Grammy and everything like that, I think in 92 or 93.
Right.
And so the main rapper in that group, his name is Speech.
Speech.
Yeah, and so that group was very like Afrocentric, very like bringing back to the roots of like not just Black but like African, and and things like that. So I was like, you know what, I want to be like the Aztec version of that. Right. So I want to be the Aztec version of Speech. So it's like Aztec Speech.
And so it's actually, man, that's beautiful. And so on top of that, like I actually hear that from your music. And I'm glad, now that you actually gave me the explanation, it actually really makes sense because again, one of your songs from it is a mixtape, right? Return to Chicago
the mixtape.
Yeah, from one of your songs from the mixtape, you used a James Brown sample. And
the payback.
The payback. There we go. Yeah, and then I was just like, so, and I've heard the rest of the mixtape as well. So you can definitely hear the Chicano influence. You can see the Chicano influence on the mixtape artwork.
Yeah.
I forgot, you told me who made that artwork, so shout out to them.
Rio, yeah, Funk Lords.
Yeah, and then, but once I heard the payback, I was like, but you incorporate a lot of soulful music into your style as well, which I personally appreciate because just growing up with, I guess, older relatives, like I guess my mom had me what you would consider late.
Yeah.
And so I would listen to a lot of oldies, whether it was James Brown's, whether it was like the old VCR tapes and DVDs I was watching. A lot of hip hop artists people would clown nowadays, like MC Hammer.
Yeah.
But and like Stevie Wonder. Then we can even go back to Bee Gees. We can list all sorts of oldies, Beastie Boys, whatever. I've heard all types of stuff. So it's nice to just hear someone else, incorporating like oldies in their music. So I think you accomplished your mission when you said that you wanted to be the Aztec version of Speech and kind of bring it back to your roots. And on top of your music, hearing you in other interviews, like you definitely show how much research you've done on like your own heritage. So, I mean, not only are you trying to like build yourself as an artist, but is that important to you? Like as your message, like once people find out about you, you want them to, I guess for fellow Latinos to feel pride in themselves, but also just to understand themselves more, I guess where they come from.
Yeah. I mean, even with, and I always try to like, talk about this when I perform and stuff, but even just using like words like Latino. No, obviously you can use it because it's like, a lot of people don't know, but even like words like Latino and Hispanic are very like European words or labels that were put on us, right?
Right.
So at the end of everything, we're indigenous, but then we're also mixed with Black,
Right.
and then we're also mixed with European,
Right.
and so we're just like a mix of things. And I just call myself brown or Chicano or Chicano and Salvadorian. It's like if you know where you're from, then you don't have to generalize yourself.
Right.
If you know your parents are from this country, and just say that you're from those countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but what was I gonna say? So you said if it's important, yeah, it's definitely important for me to put those influences in my music, because it's like um, I wear my influences on my sleeve whether I want to or not.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is finding that middle ground of like, I don't want to sound, for example, if I really look up to Eminem, it's finding that balance of like not sounding too much like Eminem, but also sounding like myself.
Sounding like being authentic and being yourself and creating your own image. Yeah. I mean, I think you're doing it because, like I said, once you explain like the meaning of your name and like some of your, I guess, influences, like we can definitely see it, we can feel it. But at the end of the day, like you have like your own voice, you have your own style, and you've done that. So again, that's another mission you accomplished. So congratulations.
I appreciate
on
that, man. Well, I mean, especially with James Brown, bro, it's like that's where hip hop started. For people that actually do their homework, old hip hop parties back in like the early 70s, like they would bump James Brown or because he always had breaks, or he was very drum heavy with his music, and so like that's what a lot of people gravitated towards, and that's how hip hop started, like sampling like old school music. And even the way I did that project was just it was literally, I think there's only one beat on there that was made was original music,
right?
And I think it was one of the last ones, was like Diary of an Immigrant, which like now I cringe listening to it but I know it was a good story thing. It literally took me a year to write it.
Yeah, that's not easy to do. Like,
it's not.
I mean, there's not a lot of artists who even can rap a story anymore. So it's you see every now and then, but again, it's not as common as it was before. So that is a hard thing to do.
And I think specifically for that song, I got influenced by Immortal Technique because when he would make songs, whether it's Dancing with the Devil or You Never Know, at the end of it there's always a twist, and so like if you listen to it, there's like a twist at the end and stuff like that. But yeah, so every song on there, I got like an old song and I just looped it. I looped like a part that didn't have any like words on it.
You chose a good song. Yeah, absolutely. And do you have a favorite James Brown song?
I think there was one. I remember when I was really listening to it heavy, there was one that I would always listen to, but damn, I'm like,
maybe it's the same one as mine. Mine's was it? I think Sex Machine.
Sex Machine was good.
Yeah,
Sex Machine was good.
I listened to that one like religiously.
That one, it's I think it's Get Up and Turn Loose.
Get Up and Turn Loose.
Because it has that break that like. That's like,
especially when you listen, if you really listen to oldies music, like you can definitely realize James, like you mentioned like just a few minutes ago. He was definitely one of the first artists to have like more upbeat, music. And so you're really paying homage to him. So kudos to you.
I think something that I'm definitely working on too is just, and this is something my fiance tells me a lot too, is bring more of like, that's cool, soul music. It's a very like, it's oldies, but it's like, where's like our oldies, like the Spanish oldies, or like oldies from like Latin American countries, and so that's something that I want to like get into too.
Okay, and actually, my favorite rapper right now is actually a Mexican artist. So, do you listen to any other? Do you listen to any other brown artists?
Right now, I mean, I listened to Little Rob's new album that came out. I liked how he was a little more different with that, with the beats that he chose. But yes, actually I do. It's called The Establishment.
The Establishment.
Yeah.
So is it a band?
So it's a band, but it's so hard to find them. But if you type in on YouTube Vade1, because Vade1 he's the rapper. He's like the main, I guess. Well, he's one of the rappers. I would call him the main rapper.
I get what you mean.
But so he started as just doing kind of like G-Funk type
Okay.
of like beats. But then as time progressed, and I've only seen one interview of him, but like as time progressed, I guess he met these people from Canada or whatever, and they made this group called the Red Handed Collective.
Okay.
And so they have an album that's, dang, I don't even remember what it's called. But if you look up the Red Handed Collective on YouTube,
Red-Handed Collective.
you'll find the album. And it's a really good. It's a G-Funk album, but it's I don't know. There's more instrumentation.
Right.
There's not really any like samples.
Right.
It's because they have like their own band.
Right. Which is sick.
It's dope
Yeah.
because you're actually able to make. You're not just making G-Funk anymore. Now
Yeah.
you're making funk and rapping to it. And so the Red Hand Collective ended up turning into the Establishment, which is like THA,
Okay.
and then Establishment, but on the SH part,
Okay.
it's a money sign.
Money. Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
so now they like right now my favorite song is by them, called Brown Sugar Affection.
Brown Sugar Affection.
Yeah, so
Okay.
every SH is a money sign.
Okay.
It's hard to find it, but if you type in
I'm
Vade
researching
One,
them.
yeah,
I'm gonna research them. I'm just a music lover.
yeah.
So as a matter of fact, I want to know. I mean, are they another? Now this is a very, I guess, it's a forgotten group.
Yeah.
But I guess you would call them like one of those old school brown artists as well. Was it MB Riders?
MB Riders, yeah.
Yeah, it was
like MC Magic.
Yeah. And what
Yeah.
was that song they made? Pretty. It's called Pretty Girl. Yeah,
Pretty Girl is
yeah.
probably like their most known.
Yeah, no, that's one of two songs that I know from them. Yeah. But would you say like, do they kind of give you that the Establishment or Vade One? Do they give you that like kind of nostalgic feeling?
I think it's more because I feel like what MB Riders and MC Magic did is that they almost modernized. Sorry, they modernized. I guess like older school music with like using the talk box and everything.
Yeah.
So they made it very 2000s,
Okay.
right? I feel with the Establishment, they're almost going back kind of like 80s,
Okay.
but also bringing it a little more, bringing it to the future, I guess
Right.
you could say, because
Yeah,
they're doing it in their own
modernizing
way.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I always love to see that. And speaking of my favorite artist right now, his name is That Mexican OT.
Oh yeah.
So you know who he is?
I don't really listen to his music, but I've seen like the big viral
Johnny Dang.
No, the big viral. I don't know if it was an interview, but it was like where the mic was kind of coming down. And he was holding the chicken.
holding a chicken.
Yeah, that was like what really like made him blow.
Yeah, he was performing his I guess you could say his most well known songs called Johnny Dang. But if you actually listen to his older stuff, in a way, I think he kind of did it unintentionally. But again, he's from Texas, so that's what OT means, out of Texas.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's a Mexican from Texas. And if you listen to his older album, I forgot what it's called. I think it was maybe called I don't know, Southside Stories or Southside Steppin', something like that. He actually uses like old school like
cool.
Latin music. And not even just like specifically Mexican music, but like just Latin in general.
Just brown,
he made a song called Texas Mexican using what do you call it? Oh, shoot, what's the name of that song? Suavemente.
Oh, okay.
And he used for
interesting.
Man, me obviously not speaking Spanish. The name of the song,
obviously, it's a little harder.
Yeah, and I think there's this other song. I think it's called Spanish. I think it's called El Rey, and I think he sampled that one as well. And but as I was following him, me being a fan, I also found out other brown Texas artists as well. There's a guy named Peso Peso.
That's cool.
I mean, he does use samples from like Latin music, but he's more of like, I guess, your modernized like rapper. He's using a lot of 808s, trap music. But definitely give That Mexican OT a listen to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Send me some stuff about him, especially like the old stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna definitely send you specific songs where he's using like those Latin samples.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, backtracking a little bit. So you were talking about Diary of an Immigrant. It was really ironic about that. I just listened to that this morning because that's the one I wanted to repeat in my head to really hear what you were talking about. So it was a good story, and you said it took you a year to write. Again, story writing is hard, so I could imagine it took that much time. But where's that story based off from?
That's actually a really good question because okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
But I actually based it off of. It was loosely based off of my my dad's story.
I was assuming so.
Because so my dad, he has like kids that he had before me that he unfortunately had to leave in Mexico.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, like let's kind of like switch this up and imagine if like he was trying to keep in contact. Or I mean, he did, but again, it's just like a play off of that.
Right.
And I don't want to give too much if people actually want to go and like listen to it or whatever.
Right.
But
Diary of an Immigrant.
Yeah.
On Return of the Chicano MC mixtape. Go find it on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Until he puts it on Apple Music, which I'm gonna press you to do.
Which I could probably put that one since it's actually an original beat.
Please
but
do. Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe like later on. But right now, to be honest, so I have an album I have all the songs basically ready. I just need to put in the skits.
Gotcha.
Like, because I don't want it to just make it be like a playlist.
Right.
I want it to be an actual body of work.
Right. And as a matter of fact, before we get too far from the original question, I appreciate you still do that. There's a lot of things that you do that a lot of artists don't do these days. Even in your old mixtape, which I will bring up. Mm-hmm. But Diary of an Immigrant is based off your father's story. And so loosely. And so I actually picked that up from some of the lyrics when not only him mentioning, I guess it's your voice. So you mentioning like talking about his kids, but he was also talking about like his worries about like about his current, like his girl at the time and stuff like that coming here, about like being underpaid as a construction worker, but it's better than not being paid.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of brown people go through that, but honestly, I think that like that song itself spoke for a lot of immigrants
in general.
And because the thing is, my mom's owned a hair salon for over 29 years, but she always said she didn't get into that because she wanted to. I remember, again, my mom being an immigrant, she always said she barely spoke the language even when she was 18. So when she got out of high school, what was she going to do?
Exactly.
So she needed to do something like with her hands, at least something, something I guess that didn't require like the language per se. And that's why you see a lot of like brown people go into construction or they could do flooring or roofing because even if they can't communicate, they know what their hands can do. Yeah. So no, that was a really great song. Even though that was your first project, like you did a lot of great things in that, and so that's why I don't want you to be so embarrassed. Like, there was two things that confused me on that mixtape until I realized you actually put so much thought into it. Like there was the one that was called Timeline.
Oh, yeah,
and so
the first one.
I was listening. I was waiting for you to like spit something, and then it occurred to me. I'm like, wait, like this is just like clips of different like songs or like was interviews and whatnot that you put together of like different like what I guess like Latino or like brown MCs, right?
Chicano
and
MCs,
so you were showing like the timeline of like I guess the evolution or just like paying homage to all those previous artists that came before you. But then at the same time, you did something else in the mixtape where I think it was called paying homage or paying tribute.
Oh yeah, at the end, yeah.
It was called tribute.
Paying respects, I think.
Yeah, and you were shouting out everybody that not only helped you in the mixtape, but just like helped bring you up in general. Like you mentioned, a mutual friend of ours, like Alan. Him being a like former artist himself
from GGC.
Then you brought up the Funk Lords, who you also introduced me to, and I've actually gotten to meet in person.
Yeah,
and so it's really dope to see one in a way that's almost like incorporating skits. Because back then, what a lot of artists used to do, it wasn't always just song. They would, I guess you got to learn a little bit. You got to see a little bit of their creativity in their head, or you learn a little bit more about them. That's what you did on your first project. So again, even though you said is not really your proudest work, you did a lot. That's a high standard you set for yourself. So this next album you said you're working on, so it's gonna have skits.
Yeah, so it's definitely gonna have skits. Like the overall premise, and I don't want to give too much, is that it's a radio show, right?
Okay.
The title is going to be 88.8 La Hora Azteca.
88.8?
Yeah, 88. Like, like the station, like 88.8. And, I don't want to say like too much, but it's like, I always love the concept of like a radio station.
Yeah.
Like playing like your music. And I know it's been done a bunch of times. I know even Snoop Dogg did it like
but it's been forgotten.
But it's been forgotten. And it's like, even with that first mixtape that I did, I listen to a lot of albums. Yes, I listen to songs and singles here and there, and I have like my own playlist. But I love, before even I got into Spotify, I would actually buy like physical CDs.
Right.
And because it's an experience. Like when I first listened to Illmatic,
Yeah.
Like with Nas, like, and I put the CD in the CD thing in my car,
Right.
and listening to that first like intro skit or whatever, playing like the Wild Style, the movie Wild Style, like
Right.
the theme of it. It's like, oh, okay, now I know where his influences come from.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, again, it's a whole experience, and especially even listening to Biggie's first album and how he started that. I don't know if you've listened to it, but even just the timeline that he did about his life, about when he was born, what music was playing, when he was a kid, what music was playing, Rapper's Delight, when in '88 or whatever, when it was it was like a certain song from that time period. So it was just a really good, again, and who knows, maybe that's where I loosely got like the timeline idea from, but it's just it's cool because you're actually, I feel like an album is supposed to be like your canvas, and also it shows the creativity of the artist.
It's like an adventure.
It's an adventure. Yeah, definitely.
And so I actually haven't listened to the album, but you explaining that kind of, it does make me want to go and listen to it. And the thing is, I actually haven't. There's a lot of artists and there's a lot of songs. Even though we know their names, we know who they are. I have never followed their project because just yet for me, like what really gets me attached to an artist is not like, obviously sometimes I just hear a song and I rock with them already, but it's like once, like for Tupac, like I know the whole world loves Tupac. Even to this day, people are still making money off of Tupac merch, which is crazy to me because he died at age of 25 back in. What year did I don't know what
87. I'm 97.
Yeah, so it's been so long, right? Yeah, he's still
not my bad. I think 96.
96.
But
it's way back then.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, like, there's people my age, there's people older, there's even people younger that listen to Tupac. And for me, I'm just like, I listen to I know his handful of songs. Obviously, we all know the classics. My favorite from him is Dear Mama.
Of course.
But I didn't really want to pay attention to him until I started seeing what stuff he said in interviews.
Yeah.
And once you get to know the artists as people, at least for me, like that's what makes me want to rock with him more. That's why I told myself to watch the Biggie documentary first, but I didn't watch the good one everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
So because I think it was only on Netflix or something for like a certain period of time, and by the time I decided to watch it, it was gone. And I had there was like 2 Biggie documentaries, and for me, I didn't want to watch it, just for the fact that like. I didn't think the actors even really looked like Biggie like that.
Yeah.
But that was gonna be my next thing. But I have seen Biggie in interviews. As a matter of fact, no, I did watch the documentary, and that is how I got to Biggie. But yet, not enough to want to start from his beginning.
And even just like looking up, I think VH1 or there was this TV series called Behind the Music, and so they did like a Behind the Music over like DJ Quick, LL Cool J. I think Ludacris too, and like a bunch of all these like other artists. And so I think even just thanks, man.
Not a problem.
Even just listening to the origin story of like these famous people, and seeing just how they started, and it's so wild to me seeing where they were and then what they ended up becoming. Like even Ice Cube was starting his own sport with like the Big Three. And so him, kind of like we were talking about with like 50 Cent, right? Like you dominate the music, then you dominate the movies,
like the acting,
right? And so now Ice Cube is literally making his own sport with the Big Three,
dude, which I watch. I find this
interesting. Dude, I haven't.
Dude, I love it because the thing is that he's bringing a lot of these veteran, like retired.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And he's like, it's giving them it's like a rebirth in their career.
Yeah.
So it's super, but I think it's super dope because most of the athletes in there, most of them are retired NBA players.
Yeah.
But most of the retired NBA players, like they're like older, like, and they're not technically old for like a person.
Yeah.
But they're old for an athlete.
For NBA.
Yeah. So they're guys in their 40s, 50s. I don't think anyone's in their 60s that played yet. But then every now and then you might have a retired NBA player that's probably in their 30s, which is still considered young, as like a regular person. But again, it's I get to see like my favorite players, and I get to relive my childhood again a little bit more. And I mean, getting into some sports stuff, it sheds some other light in like the game.
That's cool. But even just going back, like you said, you like listening, and I like doing this too. I like going back to artists' interviews and really being able to see their personality, because there's always a difference between like their music and how they really are.
Absolutely.
And so like even Vince Staples, I don't know if you know Vince Staples.
Yo, he's funny.
His interviews are perfect, man.
Yeah.
And now knowing that he's making his own TV series like on
Right.
Netflix, I think. And I'm excited to watch that.
Yeah.
So now he's done with his music stuff. Now he's getting into the
You
acting
know,
part.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never listened to a Vince Staples song.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a song with him even featured in it. I've
My-
seen it, never listened to it.
So my favorite, and maybe a lot of people won't say that this is their favorite album from him, but I love FM because FM. Oh, it's a radio.
Okay.
FM. The album FM is a radio theme
Yeah.
with Big Boy.
Yeah.
Actually,
really?
yeah, Big Boy's in it.
sick.
So it's like what was I gonna say? Obviously, like I like song like North North is probably like his most like famous one, but I really like damn, it's one of the first. It's one of like the first half of FM. I really like it.
FM,
Yeah, by Vince Staples. So it's very hyphy, very E40
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
type of like
So
North Cali.
It shows West Coast influence.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I knew
definitely.
he was from. Cali.
Long Beach.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's from Long Beach.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
same place as like Snoop. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
you know the
the
influence.
few lyrics I have heard from him, I couldn't really hear the West Coast influence. But again, I haven't really listened to him.
Yeah,
But when you hear him talk, you definitely know he's from Cali.
yeah,
And but he's a smart dude, and he's just hilarious. I think he was telling people to like quit like pretty much like quit fronting, and he was like just be the good boy that your mom raised you to be. He was just like it's okay to be a bitch. You are a bitch.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
If that's what you are, like, and that's the thing with me, man. Like, I've never tried to get into like problems and shit because
Yeah.
it's like I hated the awkwardness of someone asking you why did you do that, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know.
right.
You know, I don't know why you do stupid shit.
Yeah.
So I don't like I don't like being put on the spot. So I
Right.
try to make sure not to mess up along the way.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, everything that you do, like in your music career, I mean, it always has seemed authentic. It never seemed like you forced a persona. Like, and me
Yeah.
knowing you, I knew you before I even found out you were like an artist.
That's true.
And so the thing is, once I started listening to your music, for me, it was just more like an extension of yourself, which music is.
Yeah.
But like you really hold yourself like the way you do in the music. You know, in your music, you're informing people. I know you as a person, or your work with. I don't want to mention these companies, but you inform people during, whether it was during your job or even when we were in the same organization with each other. Like, again, you're just you. You just so happen to express it in different ways. So yeah, I thought that was. It's really hard to find not only authentic people, but people who are just like true to like a certain mission nowadays.
Yeah.
So, but you've been doing it all around in every aspect of your life. It seems like.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Because it's like, especially with hip hop, it's very easy, or even just music in general. It's very easy to portray something that you're not.
Mhm.
And I feel like even sometimes, maybe with certain lyrics that I'll throw, it's like, I'm not really like that,
Mhm.
you know. But it's like, I don't know. It's your life exaggerated, but some people take it way too far.
Yeah, I
You know?
understand. No, for sure,
Yeah.
man. Trust me, I get it. And is there any line that are in a song that you have put out that you're embarrassed of that sticks in your head to this
Yeah,
day?
I do.
And
So
what single? You got to tell me what single
Okay.
or what mixtape was it? Was it in Return of the
it was
Chicano?
in Return to Chicano MC. So it was the first music video that I did, and it was called "Ride with Us." And
Okay.
yeah. I don't know
What'd you
if you've seen that.
I've seen it. Yeah, it comes
But
in black and white. You incorporated the funk lords, and it's like featuring.
Oh no,
Shiva.
that one's well, featuring Shiva, yeah, but it didn't start in black and white. That's In Your Face.
That's In Your Face.
Yeah,
Okay,
In
okay.
Your Face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like this later on was like
Yeah.
black and white. But yeah, so I guess at that time I was kind of just like saying words that kind of rhyme with each other, and I guess I mean there is like a double entendre on it, but it's like the I'm even trying to remember right now. But basically, like the first verse, it was interpreting like grab your prophylactic or like grab your protection, right? And we're gonna go take a ride or whatever. But it's like I don't know. I think it's something about like automatic dick or something like that.
Yeah,
like something that I said, and I'm just like
you know what?
but again, it's like automatic. Like it plays into like double entendre with a gun and protection, and but it's just like now thinking back on that, I'm like, yeah, it's really cringy.
You know,
But
maybe
if I
I'll have to listen. I have to re-listen to that because honestly, I don't think I noticed that part.
if I could remember the lyrics right now, like I would like recite it back,
Yeah.
but right now I'm
And I know you're a Wu-Tang fan, so you know. Have you ever watched a Wu-Tang documentary
not. Which one?
on Hulu? Like the series,
The TV series. I watched
yeah.
the first season.
So
The
did
first
you?
season was
The
really good.
first season. That's where I'm going to.
Oh,
When Bobby first went, or RZA first went onto
yeah.
that stage, he said
And he
something
was
about the
talking
sperm,
about the
the
sperm.
sperm,
Yeah.
the egg. If it's like, I was just like, wait. I was like, what? I was like, my first, I'm like, oh, this is just a TV show. Mom was like, wait a
No,
minute.
that was real.
But then I was like, wait a minute, no, like this is supposed to be like almost like a, what do you call it? Like a time machine. Like it's
Yeah.
just stuff like
Yeah.
that actually happened in the past. I'm like, you know what? At
Yeah.
the same time, I wouldn't put it past RZA because if you actually listen to some of his lyrics, like don't get me wrong, they go with the beat, they go with the instrumental that he makes, and it flows. But if you were to take it out, like listen to it without the instrumental, or just take it out, you're like, wait, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he even said something. I guess that wouldn't. I guess you wouldn't expect in a rap line. I think even like
Yeah.
protect your neck. I think.
Mm.
Or maybe it was another song. But yeah,
I mean, I know even Method Man, he doesn't like the
Method Man
song Method
which
Man
is
song.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he said he made it when he was 16.
Which is wild.
Yeah, wait, that's such a great song though.
Yeah.
I rock
But
it.
I could see why, because it's like a whole bunch of like kind of like references of like commercials and here and there. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, overall, because of how it rides with the beat, and that's something that I learned I learned in 2020 when I actually started. I'm not gonna lie, I started getting high and listening to albums like
yeah,
at night. Like
yeah.
I'll
Me too.
turn off all the lights, I'll get high, I'll listen to. I remember even listening to that was actually the first time that I listened to Good Kid, Mad City all the way,
Oh, really?
and seeing like, especially when you're high as hell
Yeah.
and you, everything's off, and you just you see the movie,
Right.
right? But I guess understanding, and this is something that Tyler the Creator has like taught me with too, is that sometimes it's not really. I mean, yeah, obviously lyrics are important, but it's also just how it comes off and how it
Yeah.
sounds. Like,
Right.
never let your lyrics, and I mean, this is even what trap dudes do too, but it's like, never let your lyrics mess up the flow of a
Understand.
song. Like, make sure that, because something that I learned too,
Right.
especially with my first mixtape, is that I wasn't going back and listening to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm not going back and listening to my own music, how the hell am I supposed to convince somebody else to listen to it?
That's actually what I talk about on this podcast. I'm like, how do I expect other people to watch this if I'm not even
If
gonna
you
we're
don't
watching
watch it.
myself?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. Like that goes with everything you do. Like what? Let's just say you're a baker or you make pastries. You know, I expect people to buy your pastries if you don't even taste it yourself
Yeah.
or you don't even enjoy it yourself. That's
Exactly.
crazy to me.
And so it's like, I started making music that I like to listen to.
Right.
So I don't know if you've listened to like my recent stuff now, but like
I have.
even the cumbia mix of Así Celebramos.
Yep.
Like that one, that was very like out of my comfort, but I did it for a performance that I
Okay.
did for La Choloteca,
Yeah.
and shout out to La Choloteca. But that was the first time that I performed at a club or a club setting,
Nice.
and there's footage of it. I recorded that
Yeah,
that performance. Yeah.
Okay, so
Like,
now that's where it was.
Yeah, and so it was dope. Everybody was like really into it. People were actually dancing,
Yeah.
and I'm like, whoa, like that's,
So
it's cool.
was that inspiration for you? Like, okay, maybe I got to do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why I'm definitely gonna send you the Mexican OT stuff because again, like you incorporating like real like Latin culture into that. I want you to I mean, well, I guess yeah, in a way take notes from what he's doing as well
definitely.
because yeah, it's working for him too. And another guy named Peso Peso. What's that song that goes Que calor?
Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that song called?
I actually don't know, but I know the song. I know
Yeah,
exactly what song you're talking about. Yeah.
And so Peso Peso used that on his song with this guy, and I think his name is Rich Greedy, another Mexican artist from Texas, but it's more trap style. But they use that as a sample in the song's called it's called Essay Talk. And actually, you know, I'm not gonna lie, first like their delivery, it took me a while to I guess accept because I'm not gonna say it's offbeat, but let's just say I guess it's different than what I'm used to.
It's a different style.
Especially you learn to appreciate difference. I feel like appreciating different types of music in their styles and flows or even genres. It's almost like just learning how to appreciate different cultures of food.
Yeah, that is a good way to put it.
Yeah. But hey, speaking of Speaking of performances, I even went back to your performance in 2015. What was that
At
called? Oh,
GGC?
no, the Latin. No, I watched that one too, but the Latin Low car show, and you had said something that stuck with me. You had went in between songs. You had said hip hop is a platform and a voice for everyone that really wants to get it. Some people get on this mic for the money and fame. So, what does being an MC, what does being a hip hop artist mean to you? I know you have a message. I mean, I know that was a long time ago, but it's like, but I mean, yeah, those are some powerful things to say, especially at the beginning of your career. So, like,
I think it's something. It's something that I heard at a in the documentary with MC Light. And
okay,
if, for those of you that know MC Light, she's a female MC that came up in like the 80s and the 80s where
yeah,
there wasn't that many
right,
lady MCs. But she was like, there is no other platform than hip hop where a young black woman could like speak to a like thousands of people and people will listen,
yeah,
right? So she used that as a platform to get her message across.
okay,
So it's like if you're able to get this many people, whatever venue you're at, if you're able to get that many people to listen to you, then like it's very important to actually say something. And if it's not in your lyrics, then at least in between your songs.
yeah,
And so because you're only gonna have that attention for that many people for a short amount of time.
right,
So you just make sure you're getting whatever you want to put out.
right,
Whether it's financial literacy, whether it's some social justice stuff, which I did early on, or whether it's just motivating people.
right,
And I think that's kind of almost the hardest part in performing is like, what are you going to say or what are you going to do in between those songs that's going to make you stand out and that's going to make the audience know what type of person you are.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's where all that came from. So yeah, I mean, you definitely took that message to heart because you said that in between songs, just like she said, and you spoke on some other things as well. But that was the one that spoke out to me.
Mm.
And two, you made a song called Ice, especially during that time, which was
2020.
it was the what was going on the border again?
So at that time, I was working with this organization called GLAR because we were trying to get here in Gwinnett County at that time. We had a sheriff that had a 287G
Mm-hmm.
program in place where basically the police and immigration, ICE, work together. And so if anyone would get stopped that was undocumented, that if they would get stopped and put in jail just because they didn't have their license,
Right.
they could potentially be getting deported.
Right.
So we were able to change that by knocking on people's doors and letting them know, hey, this is what's going on that's affecting our community.
Mm-hmm.
Vote for the sheriff that's actually going to take that policy out.
Right.
And we did it.
Yeah.
And we did it, and it was almost like a celebration.
Bro, that's a big thing to accomplish. Like, honestly, forget about the music and whatnot. And whether people even give you your roses for that. I mean, dude, you saved the community.
And it obviously it wasn't just me, but obviously like it was a group of organizations. But I'm glad to have even been a part of it.
Be a part of it. And yeah, not only that, but you also shed light into it. Like you didn't just make a song about it, but you also made a music video to go on top of it, which had like a good amount of views. And you were also selling shirts to promote
that time.
I guess to gain build more awareness of that. So that's really powerful.
Even at that time, so in 2020, I know 2020 was really bad for a lot of people, but I guess I could say for me, it was an opportunity because a lot of people weren't at work, and so I took that time actually to go to LA for their 50th anniversary of the Chicano moratorium.
Yeah,
and we can, I guess, get into that as the kind of history, but basically. It was a huge protest in East LA where there's a lot of brown folks and Chicano folks. And so I was lucky that I was actually able to perform because the Brown Berets put me on to perform. The Brown Berets is basically the Chicano version of the Black Panthers.
Okay.
And so they helped me out with getting me on stage. And I, obviously, if I went out to LA at that time, that's the song I was promoting.
Right.
And so I had a lot of shirts with me. So I gave out a lot of shirts. I sold a lot of shirts.
Right.
And even people from the Brown Berets had my shirts. And it was cool because there was this one lady or one woman, I guess, that she was in the Brown Berets, and she actually wore that shirt to a protest against their representative about
Right.
something similar that was going on. And so
Man.
I'm just like, damn, like that's so cool that like I guess my message went that far.
Yeah.
You know?
You're a part of history, bro.
Yeah, it was cool. And I do a lot of things, or I did a lot of things, and I guess I'm continuing to do things like that because I want my kids to, if I want to be a role model, yeah, whatever, but I want to be a role model to my son at
Right.
anything. You know, and I want him to look up to me and be like, damn, my dad did that.
Right. And
Now what can I do?
right. And, you know, obviously in his early years, he might not
Yeah, of
know
course.
exactly what you're doing, but he's know stuff when he gets older. Maybe he's around your age. Maybe you never know. He might be chasing the same things you are.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he's not having to fight the same battles that you've already been battling.
Yeah.
But he might want to be that sort of individual as well. And then once he does a little bit more research on you, he can come to you advice and ask for that stuff.
Yeah.
But we got some ways until then. Right now you say he's still you're still waiting for him to learn how to walk, right?
Yeah. So he's a year and a month old right now.
Yeah.
And even just seeing like how he claps when he wakes up and he sees me and my fiance, like once we actually get up, like even just this morning, I wake up and he like claps, and it's like, that's how because sometimes when you see his stepbrother too, or his brother, he claps, like when he sees my parents, he'll clap. So it's like it's cool, like seeing his like initial reaction, because it's genuine,
right? And hey, look, we're just gonna do this for the future, because again, we want to give him something to look back on. Who knows? Maybe he'll watch this podcast one day. Do you have any message for him right now?
I think right now it's make sure not to pick up that many addictions along the way, because whether that, and you can get addicted to anything. You can get addicted to video games, you can get addicted to alcohol, whatever. But it's like, but it's also just do what you feel is right, follow your heart, and do what makes you happy, as long as it keeps you happy. Don't think of it like short term, like this will make me happy in the short term, or just always just think 10 steps ahead. And I know that's something that even my fiance helps me with doing too. And I think just having me and my fiance as his parents, I feel like he's gonna do great. And
absolutely,
I'm definitely like, I'm just excited for when he's actually like a kid, and I'm actually able to play with him and things like that.
Actually talk to him, like give him these messages, and give him these messages and get feedback. I think that's gonna be wild, because I guess just something off topic, like I remember my mom would always tell my dad, and I guess it's little things like this that parents pick up, but my mom would tell my dad, there's gonna be a day where your son, which is me, is gonna ask you for the keys, like to the car. And ultimately there was like that day where like I was like asking like, hey, where are the keys, blah blah blah. But like it came so fast, and so I'm even waiting for the day where like my son drives me around somewhere or whatever, and it's cool. Like, damn, I don't know. No, that's obviously I'm not a parent yet, so but just I always imagine how it was for my mother, like seeing my mom being a single mom. Just I always wondered how it was to see her only son and her only daughter to grow up. My sister lives in New York now, so now
that's cool.
so now it's just me, right? But at the same time, even though I'm with her and I help her a lot, she definitely sees that I have my own, like, I guess I'm an individual. And so sometimes I feel like some of the, even if that's like a tiny decision, it's like, what are you doing tonight? It's like, oh, I'm just gonna go out with some friends and go eat. And she's like, oh, okay, well, just so you know, like, remember we marinated like barbecue with each other 2 days ago. I'm just like, no, you're good, you're good.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that's nice, man. And sometimes like doing things like that, like with your mom, and I've been seeing there's like this new trend in TikTok where they just randomly do a sleepover at their grandparents' house.
Dude, I've seen that, and I think that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I mean, rest in peace to my grandparents, but like, if anyone has the opportunity to do that, I think they should go ahead and do it. I mean, shit. I mean, maybe even you and your brother.
Yeah, even
you
even
and your brother should just come back home one day, just come in
with our families, like like, yo, we sleeping over tonight.
And then your mom, your dad can be like, yo, what are you guys doing here? It's like having a sleepover.
Yeah.
And so I think that'd be. Is that something you want to do?
No, actually, yeah, that's something that ever since I've been looking at, I haven't talked to my fiance about that, because I always forget kind of when when there's like downtime.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to do that.
I think it's such a heartwarming trend. And
Yeah.
I need that. I need that to legitimately be a trend.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I feel like that just there's not a lot of trends that, like I guess spread
That's
love.
productive. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like loving.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of entertaining trends or just like stupid trends. You remember when we were all younger, we had to do like was it the salt and ice challenge or the damn cinnamon challenge? You remember that?
Oh, I remember the cinnamon challenge.
Yeah.
I remember when I was graduating high school, the whole thing was the Harlem Shake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was lame as hell. For
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
looking back at it, I remember asking people like, so I actually have a lot of New York people from New York in my life. I'm like, so what was the whole thing about the whole Harlem Shake? And they're just like, honestly, I don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
I said they're always like, I said, did it originate from Harlem? They said no clue.
Well, I mean, the original Harlem Shake it is a real dance.
Okay.
I don't know how it became like that techno thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, that it's a real dance. It is a real dance, but it's not what the trend was like in 2013.
Right.
It's definitely not
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like watching all your previous projects, you've always pretty much been an all around like hip hop artist. And as a matter of fact, even a small thing that you consider yourself, a lot of people don't do these days. You consider yourself an MC. So can you tell me what distinguishes like a MC and I guess your typical rapper?
Okay. So I would say, and even when people would like, I guess try to call me a Chicano rapper, I'm like, I'd rather call myself a Chicano MC, just because I don't. I guess I wouldn't just be rapping like the regular same old cars, girls, money, but it's like an MC can is just like an all around artist that knows how to touch on different topics, whether it's like social justice or maybe like more like personal things. And I don't know, like an MC is just a little more of a wordsmith,
Yeah.
and so like even though like I mentioned before, like you should focus on your flow sometimes even more than your lyrics. I still feel like lyrics are very important because again, um, through this outlet is how you can really get a lot of people to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah, it's it's a message.
Yeah.
And so it's it actually brought that up back at no, actually in your old mixtape. I think on Bum Rush the Sound. Or you said this during one of your performances back in 2015. You said forgetting about the knowledge, focusing on confetti. You weren't saying that about yourself, but you were saying that about other artists that were out here that they're just trying to do this to get money per se.
Yeah.
So I guess that you would just say that's like what is your biggest mission? What is your biggest goal as an artist?
I guess my biggest mission, man, is like to make an impact in this like in this Chicano rap game and the rap game. But either way, because I remember when I was either in high school or early college, when I would look up these older Chicano rap or Chicano artists, like brown skin artists who I sampled for Bum Rush the Sound, it's like they wouldn't have never have known in the early 90s when they're doing their thing. There's someone in like 2019 that would actually like go back and look at their YouTube related and they just came up and now wow, now I'm influenced by them.
Yeah.
So I would love for future MCs or whatever to see me and other people that are doing their thing right now as influence to do their thing and be like, you know what, we don't have to do what all the mainstream people are doing,
Right.
and we can just keep
You're speaking to somebody.
and keep to ourselves.
No, and that's how I think about myself when it comes to anything, whether it's this podcast, whether it's like the YouTube videos I put out, because there's YouTube videos I'm too embarrassed to watch because they came out when I was way younger.
Yeah,
or
me
it's a
too.
different mindset.
Yeah, me too.
But I still get comments, I get views, I get likes to this day. And so I think it also kind of reminded me of music because me being a young guy, right? But I'm listening to all this like 80s music. We talk about James Brown, we talk about Bee Gees, we listen to a lot of artists, and even like the late, like no, the 90s artists, we're still listening to this day. And when I think about some of them, they were never, let's just say, sometimes they were never the biggest artists of their generation, their year, but they're still recognizable. Like, let's just say, if you want to bring up Chicano artists, let's bring up like Cypress Hill.
100%.
Cypress Hill was one of like the main, like I don't know, would you call him Chicano or?
So I've listened to like I listened to interviews talking with Be Real, who's one of the rappers for Cypress Hill.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, I wouldn't consider myself a Chicano artist, but if you give me that tag, I mean, I don't mind it.
They're just artists that so happen
To be brown, because
yeah.
they're well, Be Real in particular, he's half Mexican and half Cuban.
Yeah.
And then Sendog is Cuban, and
Yeah.
then Eric Bobo is Cuban, I
Right.
think, and then DJ Mugg is like a white
Yeah.
guy.
And
But yeah,
you just also just around that time period, like every person that spoke Spanish was considered Mexican, and every time, and
especially in LA.
yeah, and whoever also spoke Spanish was probably also, and every Mexican was considered Chicano. Yeah,
that
so
time.
yeah, so I guess that's But again, so that going back, that's like their music speaks to us even now to this day. Even if they were big, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
they weren't bigger than NWA. They weren't gonna be bigger than Death Row and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I think they did a good job in that, and this is what Be Real talks about a lot, is that they didn't stick to, they had their Spanish records, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I mean, like, even in their first album, which again,
Yeah.
listening to their whole first album is dope.
Yeah.
Because once you get, because Latin Lingo is probably my favorite song on that first album, and it's on like the later part of the album. And so right before that song comes up is like it's almost like an interlude track, and it's just so dope. And so when Latin Lingo comes out, it's just like, hey, like I don't know, there's certain frequencies that just like hit you.
Right.
And so even though they didn't stick with just like the Chicano stuff and rapping in Spanish, they still had it sprinkled in, but they were for the most part strictly hip hop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so, okay, so that's what your legacy, that's what you want it to be, you know, like even respect. I don't want to put any curse words on your career, but let's just say you're not the biggest artist, you know, now during your lifetime, or even just not say your lifetime,
even just like right now.
Yeah, like in the future, you know, who knows? That's the same thing as like well, what? Dang, I forgot. I think 50 Cent made this guy's career blow. No, with Mexican OT, you know, Paul Wall, one of the greatest, you know, artists of our generation. I feel like, what is it? Our generation?
Paul Wall.
Yeah. But like the thing is, you didn't really hear about Paul Wall again, or I guess especially like younger cats, or people around my age and younger. And then Paul Wall did a song with that Mexican OT. He even said,
because they're both from Texas.
Yeah, but he said it on a live, and he said, no, he actually said it when that Mexican OT was with the cruise show. And Paul Wall called in. He was like, "Hey man," he was like, "Yo, shout out to Mexican OT." He said, "He revived my career." Da 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 da. He was like, because of that song, he was like, "I'm back, baby." He was like, "Whoever wants some grills, hit me up." Da,
That's
da,
cool.
Da, da. And so, who knows? Maybe in the future, there's some guy listening to your song right now. When he becomes an artist, he's gonna be like, "Yo, I want Aztec Speech to be on this." So, especially in your line of work and everywhere you performed, everywhere you've gone to, knocking door to door, who knows what young kid out there you inspired to, you know, just like speak for his community, and he wants you to be a part of that.
And I have seen that. Like, I know there's a good couple of years where I was performing for the Latin American Association for their thing that they do for like middle school and high school kids. And so I would perform for their like opening ceremony, and there's always like this kid that would come up and he's like, "Yo," because he had seen me perform at a car show in Lawrenceville before.
Yeah,
and he's from Dalton.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Yo, man, like, you know, I like listening to your stuff. Like, you know, I'm trying to rap too." And obviously, like in high school, like I just know how that is. Like I remember when I was rapping in high school.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm like, "Yo, bro, like right now," because he was telling me he doesn't really like the songs that he makes. I'm like, "That's fine." I'm like, just get that over with, get the awkward stage over with,
right?
So you can actually get to what you want to do. Because even in the beginning, you're gonna be just doing things on your own, and even just with you, like you're gonna meet more people that are in your world. They're gonna want to work with you. Just as long as you have some type of like consistency and some type of work behind you that shows, hey, like I'm serious about the stuff. I have this. This is my ammo that I have right now. And it's like, okay, I want to work with you, you know,
right.
and things like that.
And that was good advice for me too. So thank you for that. And going back into you being an artist, from all the music videos I've seen, like again, you know, you've already introduced me to them in person, but you have a good relationship with the Funk Lords. How important was it for you to have choreography as a part of your set?
That's such a great question, man, because I put a lot of thought into my performances. And again, it's going back, listening or watching live video. Because again, okay, if you're an artist, go back to the people that you actually like look at their music videos, look at what they did, look at their live videos, look at their interviews, and really study them. And why do you like this person, and why you like the way you
So
do
like
it.
take notes, take inspiration.
Take notes, and why you like this person.
So who did that for you?
So for me, like who I looked up to for performances.
When it came to the like, who gave you the inspiration to try to incorporate like dancing, like choreography into your stuff?
I mean, I've seen like older lives of like Big Daddy Kane, or
Big Daddy Kane,
or even like in the early 2000s, there was a lot of rappers that had like background dancers. But
right.
I think and KRS One, obviously, because he would have like breakers and like poppers in his thing.
Right.
But so the Funk Lords really helped me out with like, so I met the Funk Lords, or I met Mr. Cool, who's part of the Funk Lords. And the first time I performed ever, like in an outside like place at a car show in 2014. I saw that he was wearing a Zulu Nation medallion.
Yeah.
And at that time, because he was in the Zulu Nation, I don't know if you know, like, but the
I
Zulu Nation,
know a little bit.
Yeah, and so like the Zulu Nation was like in the early 70s. They're the ones that kind of basically incorporated hip hop and kind of organized it, and saying that like the 4 elements or the 5 elements of hip hop is MCing, graffiti, DJ, and MC, graffiti, DJ, and oh man,
was it dancing?
And dancing. I'm sorry, and b-boying, and then obviously like the 5th one, which is the most important, is the knowledge, right?
Right.
And so so they're the ones that kind of came on up. So I saw that he was wearing the medallion, and I talked to him about it. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm in the Zulu Nation." I'm like, "What?" But it was time for me to go perform. So I talked to him afterwards, and so he basically put me on game on like what the Funk Lords have been doing in Atlanta ever since the early like 2000s,
right?
Where they're performing. Well, they would go on tour with different artists at the time. They would perform for like the Falcon, or not the Falcons, like the Hawks games and stuff like that. So they were like really big in the early 2000s,
right?
And so they're like a lot like older than me,
right?
And so they really helped me with understanding really what it means to live hip hop, instead of just doing it.
And I think it ties in hand what you're doing too, and because I feel like both of you guys are bringing back, let's just say, I guess, lost art. I hate to say that, but I mean it's the truth, because it's like, it's either, if you're a dancer now, it's like you have to be in like those, I guess, dance competition, those dance shows. It's not just like a way of life anymore. So at least from what I've seen, it's just not as popular as it was back then. But so I hope you guys continue to work with each other, because again, you guys do work hand in hand with each other, but you guys are both on a mission. I think you guys both help shed light on each other's,
on hip hop culture. And so it's like, now that because I almost made like a promise to myself, where I told myself that, you know what, I'm not gonna do any more like free gigs unless it's someone that I know and it's like, like a benefit type of show.
Right.
But I'm only gonna really focus on gigs that are like paying me out. And it's not because I'm wanting to do, and not that I want the money.
Okay.
But it's like, if you give me money, or you give me at least this certain amount, then I know that I can put a lot into this show, or I can provide a lot of different factors into this performance,
right?
And so for example, the last performance that I did in Lawrenceville, I headlined their Latin festival in Lawrenceville in October 14th, I think. But it was dope. They gave me a good chunk of money. And so I was actually able to provide a band with me. So I had a band. I had a congo, like a congas player. And I had a bass player. I had my homeboy, that's my DJ. That also produces some of my songs, IQ. And then the Funk Lords were there, like, as dancing too. And then I danced a little bit too. So it's like, it was a great show. And I still have a lot of footage, and I got it professionally filmed that I haven't put it on Instagram yet, which I'm going to. But yeah, that was great. That was a great show.
And not only that, when people pay you to like perform, it kind of shows that they respect what you do.
They value.
And they also like value like the art of like, the performance itself. even if they're not like big hip hop heads themselves,
Yeah.
they just know that your performance is of value, you know.
Yeah.
And again, it being a lost art, I definitely feel like it needs to be brought back up, and I feel like you guys are the only ones that are doing it right now. So yeah, just keep it up. I'm gonna always support you guys, and hopefully, when is there any upcoming shows?
Right now, not really. Just because it is the beginning of the year, so it's kind of cold.
Right.
So there's not really many people doing too many things. But I know once the summer comes up, like things are gonna pop up. I know. I went to Oya Fest last year,
Yeah.
and I I performed at something that they helped put together right before Oya Fest. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, it was the Estamos Aquí like festival.
Okay.
Which my homeboy Victor Mariachi, he made a song called Estamos Aquí.
Yeah.
With LCF, this organization, and so
Right.
they started making like a festival behind that song.
Right.
And so I performed for that festival. But Oya Fest is definitely dope. They I think they do a great job in incorporating like local artists and also artists that are maybe a little bigger.
Right.
By having like two different stages.
Yeah.
So it's like you could either choose if you want to go with like the mainstream guys or you want to go with like the underground
On
dudes.
top of that, it helps you with connections.
Yeah, it really did. So I go. I know the people that put it on, so they're super dope. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that, and just working with them more. I work with Electroloteca a lot too, but I think right now, because I do love my performances, but I don't want it to get stagnant where I'm just performing the same things over and
Right.
over. So potentially, or in the coming like months, I want to make more music. First, put whatever I have out now.
Right, already. Yeah. I've been waiting on music from you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so,
Yeah.
and I have a lot that I just haven't put on Spotify or anything like that. But so once that's done, then I want to get into more, almost like a different type of feel. I guess the only way I could really put it is just how Tyler went from what he was doing with rapping and going more into like singing.
Yeah.
Not that I want to go like full blown singing, but I have a
You just want to
homeboy.
change it up.
I do want to change it up because at the end of the day, like I love like melodic things. I love chords. I love
Right.
those
I get
things.
it.
And
Look,
so
the preacher
yeah.
doesn't want to be a preacher all the time.
Yeah.
So let's just like the preacher wants to be part of the congregation too and be able to worship just like them. He doesn't want to have to lead it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, like you're not only you're growing up as a person, but at the same time you're evolving as an artist, and that's what I need. Just like other music fans to realize, me like listening to like people like Machine Gun Kelly, you know, if I've been a fan for a long time, so he is a rapper, but at the same time he's always loved rock music.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like Machine Gun Kelly as a person, but at the same time I know when it comes to his music interests, he's always also had an interest in like Linkin Park. He was a big fan, just like I was, so like metal slash rock. So when he started doing more like rock music, his fans are like, you need to like, he was like, no, we need the OMGK, da 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 da. Like, why is your music so different now? And thank God I didn't have to say it, but another fan was like, you have to realize like he's human just like us. He's growing as an artist too. Like, if you expected him to still rap about Cleveland and like these same streets, like for like the next 10 years, then you need to grow up as a person because it's showing that your ears aren't evolving with him. Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really important for artists nowadays is that you have to show your versatility off the bat. Because if you kind of just stick yourself onto one thing, you're limiting yourself on the type of audience that you can have when you can have so many other ones.
Right.
I'm just like expanding yourself, and people want to see more than just a one-dimensional person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, some artists are lucky to be able to live off of like a single or live off like one project for a while, and they don't have to work on some for the next few years. Like the R&B artist, I don't know if you know who he is, like Khalid or Khalid. He made this song called Location, or was it? It's the Young, Dumb, and Broke song that was on the radio for a long time. And he was able to like live off that album for like 2-3 years, and he finally came out with another one. I would say it's still in the same spectrum, but yeah, I mean, it did show a little bit of maturity, but yeah, still in the same thing. But again, that's exactly why I started distancing myself from his music, because I felt like if he brought out another project, it'd probably just be in a similar space. Still love him, but it's just like, now I want to go see other artists, see what they can do.
And you can't listen to hip hop like all the time, man.
Yeah.
Like even with me, I've been listening to more of like even to be honest, like Korean people.
Really?
Korean.
Seriously?
I don't know if you would call it K-pop or I don't know where it is, but it's this group in particular called HYBS Hybes or something like that.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, I know, but it's really good, and I think like even the synthesizers that they use is really like dreamy type,
Yeah.
like almost like a dream pop
Right.
type of feel. But it's like I like that,
Yeah.
because it gives me like an '80s feel, but it's also I don't know, it's cool.
Some of the best hip hop artists have listened to like took inspiration from things other than hip hop,
Yeah,
especially our favorite '90s and '80s artists because back then there wasn't as
there
much rap
wasn't
music.
anything
Yeah,
else. Yeah,
and so like yeah, they were listening to those soulful musics to make rap songs. And for me, it's like that's crazy to think because I couldn't even imagine like I don't know listening to. I don't let me try to think of a very slow song right now. Um, I wouldn't be able to listen to classical music and be like, oh yeah, I'm about to put 808 on that and like I'm gonna go crazy.
hmm
Like, but I mean, there wasn't 808 back then, but I couldn't imagine like putting like just thinking, oh, let me just put drums on top of that and like chop it up here and there. But yeah, our old 90s and 80s artists, they're really geniuses in their own way.
yeah.
So
No,
shout out to them.
they really did a good job in like chopping up things that they wanted from older like genres. And I I remember I saw this interview with Vince Staples where he was like, "Yo, have you heard? Oh, what song? Have you heard in the club? Like by 50 Cent?
Yeah,
It's like that's a classic. That's a classical music song, bro. Like really listen to all the instruments. And yeah, it
yeah,
was very like orchestra,
yeah.
like heavy. And I'm like, oh shit, that really is. You
Damn.
know?
Well, literally
Yeah.
exactly what I was just talking about. That is crazy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can find inspiration in anywhere, and like especially with music, it's limitless, and where
Yeah.
you can find your inspiration for. And
So
it's
I know you
yeah,
didn't want to give up too much about what you have coming up, but you said for your album it's gonna be called 88.8. Was it?
La Hora Azteca.
Okay,
It's
that's what you're
like
gonna
the
call it.
Aztec hour.
Okay, so that's what you're
Yeah,
gonna call it. All right. So what can we look forward to when it comes to that? Like,
I think um, if you've been to my performances, then you basically have heard for the most part the majority of the project.
yeah.
I have a song that is like half English, half Spanish. So it was actually the first time that I wrote almost like a whole verse in Spanish. The first time I performed it was actually in Mexico, like for my family in
What?
Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
crazy.
performed them. I made the music video in Mexico when I went before my son was born,
Yeah.
and we did it just off of like either my phone or like my fiance's camera. We still haven't got together to put all that
Yeah.
stuff together,
It takes
but
time, man.
yeah, but that song, and I don't know why I'm like blanking out on even the name of that song, but it's called Raíces.
Say that?
Raíces, which is
Okay.
like Spanish for
Raíces.
roots.
Okay, roots.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so
It's gonna be a dope song.
yeah, so that, and then a song that I've been performing for like years called Orale,
Hmm.
which is more it's like a North Cali type of like hyphy type of
Okay.
feel, and it's like more like a dance, like a
I was gonna say it
club.
sounds upbeat. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
it's cool because it's like the I like performing it live because I always get the crowd to say orale with me.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, when I'm gonna tell you how the chorus goes,
Yeah.
and when I point at you, y'all gonna say orale, and like,
Yeah.
and like
Oh,
so
that's sick.
it's cool.
Yeah.
So it gets the crowd going, and I, sorry, I was trying to think if one of the performances that you might have seen I might have performed there, but I don't think
Hmm.
so. But yeah, again, it's a versatility of things, and so I'm excited to just put it out so I can go on and make like new things.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
I'm excited for that to come out. But before that, bro, you just before you go, you need to do one easy thing for me, man. Again, just upload Return of the Chicano MC. That's all I need. At least for now, man. I've been listening to your singles, but I need you to put some of that old stuff back on and then we can get to the new project. All right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right.
At least just to like fill up the empty space for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. But Aztec Speech, I'm so glad that you came here. Thank you for sharing, so much knowledge and just sharing your story. And again, I find your story very fascinating, and I'm always gonna be rooting for you, and I can't wait for what the future holds for you, man.
I can't wait for what the future holds for this, man.
I appreciate it.
So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for me. I'm excited for us.
Once just like I told some of my other guests, once you're evolving as an artist, you're at a space where you feel just a little bit more complacent. We're gonna have to have you back for round 2, just so you can just update us on how life and how your adventure is going.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
it's gonna be exciting.
Hey, again, appreciate
All
you,
right.
man.
All right, take care, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I come with the crazy style that's straight wicked. Instrumental so far, maybe that's why I picked it. A brown skinned artist tearing up the scene. Many people wonder how does he do it so clean. I lean to the left when I like to split. Kinda like when I riff a rhyme, that's my gift. Feel the pole shake as I rock the stage. New story of my life, time to turn the page. Young Mexica, straight Chicano. Don't worry about nothing, got my gente en mi lado. Gotta rise up, my people's in a rage. Why you think we ride around with the 12 gauge? Joining the army, I'd rather join the...
Forgetting about the knowledge, so focusing on confetti. Tryna build my style, you homie, I got too many. Down with the oppressor, I don't care about Europe. Pretend to die in these deserts at the same time that Europe.